welcome back to the class, everyone. We had it announced a couple of weeks ago that Lobot himself, the man, the myth, the legend, will be getting a rework when he was announced as a requirement for Galactic Legend Leia. And it's here. And it's actually pretty good. So I guess I will preface this with saying that Lobot isn't about to break the meta or be a part of some really big team that's going to start taking down Galactic Legends. But the dude is finally going to be usable. He's going to be good, and I don't just like that he's going to be good. I like where they've chosen to put him in the grand scheme of the game. The team that he's going into actually does need a lot of help right now, not just with having good characters, but with having characters in general. And I guess there's really no reason to hide it. That team is going to be Sorty, our current light side droid leader, of course, of which he fits super well into, because that's always what his kit was about. It was always about light side droids. So we're going to touch a little bit on what the kit changes are, and then we're going to start to look at some comps and again realize why this is such a good fit, and it's going to be helpful for a lot of rosters out there that are going after Leia that are going to find themselves really stretched thin when it comes to droids. So that being said, only really 2 or 3 things changed. His special abilities are the same as they were before, or rather his special abilities the same as was before. You will note that there are differences in the text. Those aren't real differences, they're just updating the wording. Like you'll notice here it says dispel all negative status effects, and the new wording just says dispel all debuffs. These are all the same things, just a new updated more relevant wording to match the rest of the things that are happening in the game. That being said, his basic ability has been entirely reworked, and we'll see that this is important because he will be using his basic ability a lot more because of the new unique he's getting. But now he deals physical damage to a target enemy and inflicts defense down for 2 turns. Before, he had an 80% chance to do it. And this right here, I'm not like, this isn't the biggest deal in the world to me, because Sorty, the team that we've already talked about, already has an AoE for defense down. If they're target locked, Lobot gains foresight for 1 turn. The ally on the leader side is a light side droid, which you really only have the option of Sorty here. I mean, I guess you can fit L3 into the leadership spot. She's not going to do much, though. All light side allies gain defense up for 1 turn. If the enemy already had defense down, inflict them with target lock for 2 turns. So we're just starting to see this huge amount of synergy between the team, where he's going to be constantly target locking. He's going to be making sure your own team has defense up, which is going to be nice. And then on top of that, he is going to be giving defense down more to the enemy team for when they cleanse or something like that happens. His special stays the same. I will note, it is important to know that he is going to gain turn, or he's going to give turn meter to the rest, or he's going to gain and give turn meter to the rest of the team, as well as recover health, and he has a cleanse there. This is pretty nice because, as I previously mentioned, Sorty has had a lot of good droids on our team throughout the ages, like L3 and IG-11. Those, more often than not, typically get stolen by teams of higher callings, depending on what you're trying to do and the way you're kind of skipping out your roster. His unique got a huge makeover, which it really needed. Originally, he was just getting some speed and tenacity for each droid. Now, whenever a light side droid ally without foresight gains foresight, which we kind of saw in the very beginning here, he's going to be gaining foresight. And you'll see at the very end, he's actually a droid. A random light side ally without foresight gains foresight for 1 turn. So what's happening here? He's going to be constantly gaining foresight because he's using his basic ability on enemy. And then because of this unique, he's going to constantly give it to a random light side droid ally without it. So it's just going to end up populating foresight on your entire team. Whenever a light side droid ally has a debuff dispelled on them, which again, he himself has a dispel if you don't already have another one on the team, they gain 5.5% critical damage and potency stacking for each debuff dispelled for 2 turns. So depending on the team you're fighting, if they, have 10 debuffs, this can make a huge difference. If they have no debuffs, it probably makes really no difference. But I think one specific counter that loves to beat the tar, actually 2 specific counters that love to beat the tar at a Sorty is Bad Batch and Wampa. Both of which deal with a ton of debuffs. Like, we've all used Wampa versus a team and just seen like 20 dots stack up on a character. Seeing that turned into 100% critical damage, combined with all the other things that are going to be happening with the droid team, it's going to start to pack a punch. Whenever a light side droid ally with less than 9% turn meter gains turn meter, and again, that's going to be happening a lot, Lobot is going to gain speed up, so he's going to be able to cycle through his turns even faster. And whenever he uses a basic ability while he has speed up, he has a 55% critical chance and removes 5.5% turn meter from target enemy. That's really Don't mean to crap on your parade Lobot, that kind of really just doesn't matter. I mean, the rest of the stuff in there is very good. 5% turn meter, I mean, it's okay. He's going to be using his basic ability enough. Maybe that does something. It isn't irresistible, though, so that is a bummer. If the ally in the leader slot is a light side droid ally, again, this is Sortie, Lobot gains the droid tag for the rest of the battle. So this is what's going to get that foresight constantly going on every single droid. They gain 10% potency and 25 speed, always good, never bad. Whenever a light side droid ally is inflicted with a debuff, again, what are we looking at here? Bad Batch, Wampa, very specific counters that are already taking this team down. Inflict target lock on the enemy that inflicted the debuff for 1 turn, which can't be resisted. This is huge. This is how you start to stop larger counters. When you put in things that can't be resisted, it doesn't matter if they have tenacity up or if they have 5,000% tenacity because it's been stacking over time. Once you can land target lock, you're going to start to get a lot of other really helpful things along with it, because we're going to see here in a second, most, not all, but most droids have some type of ability that turns target lock into something more than it already is. IG-88, we looked at him a while ago in a video, it essentially turns him into healing immunity. Grievous's leadership makes it so that they can't counter. There's a lot of these other effects throughout the droids. I believe IPD prevents them from gaining buffs. So it's not just a debuff. It is a bunch of different effects depending on the team you're using that can help mitigate a lot of counters. Whenever another light side droid ally uses a basic ability against a target locked enemy, they deal 35% more damage, which is good. The Sortie team does lack a little bit of damage. And Lobot assists. So very similar to what we saw with Drogon earlier today, very similar that we've seen with Ahsoka or Boosh or Echo on a 501st team or whoever. He is going to be the one constantly assisting at a turn. He's going to be lowering turn meter. He's going to be constantly giving out foresight. He's going to be giving defense down. He's going to be giving out target lock. All that is going to be happening every single time when your character uses a basic. And there are characters in the Sortie team that not only taunt, but counter. And when they counter, they use a basic. So this is very good design. Well, again, this isn't just going to go out there and beat SLKR or anything crazy like that. It's going to start to become more of a defensive menace. The light side droid allies have foresight. They have 50% critical chance, and whenever they use a basic ability, inflict speed down on target enemy for 1 turn. So pretty simple interactions once you see the kit as a whole and really what the team he's going to go into is. But overall, I mean, I didn't want them to make Lobot the most broken character ever, so that's kind of fine. But he's going to actually have a place in the game to the point where he fits in, and he's going to actually be able to do something. He's going to cause probably frustration in some points, but, you know, that is kind of part of the game. So there are going to be a few different variations going around of what team he's going to fit to, but I think right now this is the best starting point. And again, going back to what we were saying at the very beginning of the video, I do think him being here is very helpful for the Sortie team. While we do have, like, what is this, 20 droids or something, 22 droids, most of them have a home elsewhere, and the very few that don't just aren't really that good. 3PO is great, but he goes with CLS. Grievous is great, but he goes with his own team. R2 is great. He'll probably end up on the Leia team, as we discussed earlier. Nubak is great. He goes with the CLS team. B1 is great. He goes with GG. BT1 is great. He goes with Afra. You guys get the point. Dark Trooper is great. He goes with Imperial Troopers. Okay, we'll stop there. There are just a lot of droids here, but there aren't really enough to go entirely around to be able to make an entire droid team, because typically one other team is always stealing one, like Rogue One with K2SO or L3 with the Dash team or IG with Scoundrels, and I'm gonna stop now. I know I said that 3 times, but this time for real. So that being said, it's nice to have a little bit of reinforcements to come specifically with Sortie that was kind of custom built for her, despite her being from the Old Republic, kind of also made up, but whatever. And I really do like this team as a starting point. I think R2 might eventually leave here, but I like him for now just because it's really nice that when BB-8 counterattacks, he will be calling in R2, and then Lobot will probably get called in twice because of that, because BB-8 was always called in a resistance ally, and there aren't really that many resistance droids to go around. Maybe we'll get more. I don't know. Not sure why we would. I think this team probably only gets 1 reinforcement. But I like this layout right now just because Sortie and T3 were kind of a match made in heaven with everything that they share together. BB-8, of course, is kind of homeless now if you're using JTR with a Ray team, or even just JTR under a Finn Zora team, both of which are quite popular options right now. T3 and Sortie end up kind of being homeless on their own with R2, and then, again, all the other droids that we previously talked about kind of end up elsewhere. But this is going to, again, be both defensively and offensively. It's going to be kind of hard to take down. And I think there are even There are even some of those added target locked effect abilities or uniques that we talked about in here, that when the enemy has it, we start to gain bonus effects based off of that. For example, Sortie herself on her basic ability has a guaranteed critical hit whenever she gets a target locked enemy, which is going to be a lot more common. T3 himself has all the stuff irresistible against target locked enemies. I don't think really BB-8 or R2 have a whole lot, just because they were kind of outfitted for different factions themselves. But again, depending on what you slot in there, we're going to start seeing additional effects, and it's just going to make the team a little bit more usable than it already was, and have a shot at stopping, and again, you know, datacrons pending and everything like that, but have a chance at stopping some of those really common counters like our good friends Bad Batch and Wampa. So hope you guys like the rework. I'm, you know, not thinking it's going to change everything, but I think it's going to be nice, especially for those of you who are going after Galactic Legend Leia and can just use a nice boost for a team that you already have out there, instead of having to, you know, rework an entire new thing from the ground up. But until next time, thank you for watching. Stay awesome.